I am at the Illinois Veterans Home in Quincy, Illinois with Gary Compton to interview Mr. Compton for the Secretary of State's Illinois Veterans History Project. Hey, Mr. Compton, can you just start by telling me a little bit about if you were drafted, what you were doing right before you entered service, what branch of the service, maybe the years that you served?
Okay. Well, I dropped out of college and I worked for a short period, and then I received my draft letter. And I went to St. Louis and took the physical and didn't like what I saw. So I went to the Navy, and they had an ongoing, what they called an instant petty officer program for union members for the Seabees. So I signed up for that, and they sent me to Chicago to take their physical, and that was a lot different from the St. Louis experience. So I was in this, I went into the service in June of 1966, and then I got an early, everybody in our unit got out on at the end of November of 1969. During that period, I made 3 missions to Vietnam, and didn't receive any medals for valor, just the typical ribbons that the Navy hands out.
So were you stationed on a ship at?
No.
Okay.
No, the Seabees is the construction unit of the Navy, and we build temporary runways for planes, roads to get to different places. But in Vietnam, it was primarily Highway 1 to go from Da Nang up to Dong Ha, which is almost the demilitarized zone. And then we build living quarters for the Navy and the Marine Corps.
I never really understood what the Seabees were before.
Yeah. And that's why they wanted people with experience, because they didn't want to have to train them. They wanted people with experience. Yeah.
So even though you had gotten your draft notice, you were able to pick which branch you...
Yes. I had if I remember correctly, like a 30-day period to decide which branch I wanted to sign up with.
Okay. So you had your training in the States, and...
I went to Rhode Island in July of 1966 and graduated. Well, we didn't have boot camp, we had indoctrination because we were petty officers. So we graduated in late August, and then I was assigned to Port Hueneme, California, and I went out there in September of 1966.
I think you said you had 3 times that you went to Vietnam?
That's correct.
How much time did you have in between that you were able to not be there?
Roughly 6 months. 5 to 6 months is the typical transition time.
Were you able to go home then, or were you stationed somewhere?
Usually, when we came home, we were entitled to a 30-day leave if we wanted it. But yeah, the Navy was very aware of the needs of the personnel.
So when you were in the service, did you make friends that you kept in touch with afterwards, or?
Not really. I mean, I made friends, but
Right.
I'm not real good at keeping in contact with people.
Were you with the same people each time you went over, or was it a different?
Yes, yeah, we were a battalion. I was in Naval Construction Battalion 11, and once you're assigned, you stay with that unit at least for the 4 years. Yeah.
So when you were over there, what were your living conditions like? I know you said that you built.
We built our own unit.
Did you?
The first the first place we went to was Dong Ha, and we were about 3 to 5 miles from the demilitarized zone, and everybody was living in tents. And then it was our mission to build living quarters for we developed the whole base for the Marines, Air Force, and of course the Seabees. And we called them huts, but they were a wood frame building with corrugated metal roofs, and we built, or before they were erected, there were trenches dug beneath the living quarters so that when we came under artillery attack, we could go below ground and hopefully avoid the artillery. Yeah.
So I know you said you built the roadways too. Did you stay in one spot and then go out and come back, or did you?
Each mission would move to a different city. The first mission was Dong Ha, and we stayed there about 9 months. The CB missions usually right around 9 months. Then we came home. When we went back, we went to I can't think, Quang Tri, which is about 5 miles south of Dong Ha. Then we came home, and then on the third trip back, we went to the city of Wei, and that was just after the Tet offensive. So we did a lot of cleaning up and repairing things after that.
So did you have much interaction with the locals?
Not a lot. They used local villagers to work on the bases, but we didn't. The Seabees didn't have much interaction with it because we were going to various job sites all over the immediate region. They were, like I said, we were working on a railroad bridge that had been destroyed, working on the road, we're building things, building storage buildings. So we didn't have much interaction with the locals.
Did you have pretty good equipment to work with?
Excellent. And what we didn't get, we commandeered.
How difficult was it, or easy was it, to keep in contact with your family at home while you were there?
During that period, letter writing was the most common way. And then the secondary thing was to make a telephone call via ham operators. So you only had a few minutes to talk to someone back here in the States, and of course you had to say over after every sentence you said. But I think primarily guys just wrote letters. And there was no satellite phones and things in those days.
Right, no internet.
No internet. No.
Um, so when you came home, did you have any benefits for being in the service that you utilized, like maybe going back to college or anything like that?
No, I joined the civilian workforce right away and started working.
So after your
But-
third time there and you came home, were you then out of the service, or did you have to?
I was discharged in November
Okay.
of '69, and I had a wife and a young child, and I just didn't want to re-enlist and get caught up in the moving from here to there and that kind of thing. But the only benefits I got was later on when I needed medical.
Right.
But no, I never went to college on the GI loan or anything like that. I did use the GI mortgage loan,
Right.
but other than that, no.
While you were there, did you have time for entertainment? And was there anything available?
Not in the way you mean
Anything
it.
that you can
We-
tell us that was available? I'm sure there were some forms.
Well, mostly every night the enlisted men's club and the officers club was the basic entertainment
Okay.
form.
Okay.
And we were only allowed so many beers a night and that kind of thing. Now, periodically we would get USO shows in, but they weren't the top-notch shows.
Really?
They were the Koreans and Taiwan, and most of them sang popular songs, but they sang them phonetically. They didn't speak English, but they learned the phonetic pronunciations. But it was entertainment. Yeah.
Did you have much downtime that you weren't working?
Not much. We worked 6 10-hour days, and then on Sunday we worked 5 hours. So all we ever had was Sunday afternoon off.
So you didn't have much time to do
No.
entertainment.
No. No. And to be frank, it was better that way because with nothing else to do, it was pretty boring. So it was better to be busy.
Yeah. What was the climate like there?
Hot.
Hot.
In the summer months, it averaged 110 to 130. And then during monsoon season, it would get down to 80, but it was constant rain. I mean, you didn't even try to stay dry. I mean, it was just impossible. So you go to work and work in the rain.
So did that hamper your work at all when it rained that much?
Some disciplines, like we couldn't pour concrete and that type of thing, but we could always build the houses, the huts and stuff. So we were busy, even though it was bad weather.
What was the food like?
Excellent.
Was it?
The Navy takes care of its people. We ate out of our mess kits for a few months until they built the dining hall. And once they got that built, the Navy cooks really took care. Almost every branch of service would try to sneak into our base to get good food. And the ironic thing is all the bases drew their food from one source, so it was the preparation that made the difference. And everybody wanted the Navy food.
Huh.
Yeah, they were good. They were good. Yeah.
I've heard, some about the jungles there. Were you?
No, our unit was never in the jungles. The jungles were visible, but not. We were always on flat, clear land,
Did you have any trouble with bugs or other undesirable animals?
not really. The early soldiers that went to Vietnam did have all that, but by the time we got there, they had sprayed so much stuff that not many flies and that kind of thing were a problem. But there was always the wind and the dirt and the heat. Always. Yeah. Yeah.
So one other thing I thought of, on your trips there and back, how did you get there? Was it plane?
We always flew.
You always flew?
And our equipment and supplies would go by ship, but the personnel always flew. And usually, well, the first time we went over, we went there and came back on C-130 jump seats. That was a long trip. But then the other ones were like the C-41 jets, and so it was a lot better. And when we came back, we always had to go through customs just like anybody else. Yeah. But it didn't, we didn't have to unpack and all that. They just checked our IDs and that kind of thing.
So while you were at home, was there another, you said battalion in that same area working?
Yeah, another one would relieve the existing one. And they would usually get there 2 to 3 weeks before, so there would be an easy transition. And
did you have much in the way of injuries or anything?
Not really. We had a real good safety record, and the first year we were under enemy attack a lot, but nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, but there were very few injuries, but there were some.
So was there a lot of enemy attack trying to, I guess, probably dismantle what you were doing?
Well, the first year we were there, like I said, we were close to the demilitarized zone, and we were under artillery attack nearly every day, 3 or 4 times a day. Yeah. And you could hear it leave the barrel of the gun, and you just took cover because you didn't know where it was going. But you just got out of the way.
So were there soldiers in your area that fired back, or did you?
Oh, the Marines did. Yeah, they were the security. And, yeah, they fired real big guns back then. And of course the helicopters, they were always on missions, the Marines were. Yeah.
So how did that feel to be able to hear it and know that it was?
Well, at first it was more than frightening. But it's like everything else in life, you get used to it. But you're always aware and alert, but you get used to it. And it was always fun when new people showed up because one day we were it was raining out. We'd taken a break. We were inside a unfinished hut, all talking, and we heard the shell leave the gun, and we had a new guy there, and he was talking to us, and he'd turned to look at something. When he looked back, the place was empty, and he couldn't figure out where everybody had gone. Well, we went out in those trenches beneath, and then when the thing hit, then he got the clue and got down there with us. That was a funny thing.
How far away would you say those guns were that were firing at you?
I would say 5 to 8 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, they were close.
Well, is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to tell me about it? It sounds like you had a really interesting time.
It was interesting. It was big in the Seabees. Everybody had a sense of accomplishment because we would complete projects. You know, not like the Marines and the Army guys that were just going out looking for trouble and come back and they'd rest up and then go back out. We didn't have that experience. We were building something. So, and they respected us for that because we were building things for them.
Right.
So we made their life easier, and they really appreciate it. The Marine, when the Seabees leave the continental United States, they become part of the Marine Corps.
Really?
Yeah. Well, and once a year we have to, on the West Coast, we have to go to Camp Pendleton for military training. Well, the Seabees and Marines don't get along at all. It's just, but as soon as you leave the country and go overseas, and all that's gone, you take care of each other. You know, it's just, the domestic stuff is just fun, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah, it was interesting.
Well, if you can't think of anything else, I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.